Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jermaine Payne and I'm super excited to be here with you guys again. Today we're going to be talking about two KPIs in marketing that I'm sure you're familiar with. If you're not familiar with these two KPIs, then I'm going to introduce them to you because these are probably the two main metrics are most important. Like, all metrics are important because they help you to make decisions, but ultimately these two metrics are the ones. Is that even a thing? The ones? Alright, so what are these two metrics? We're talking about your return on ad spend, your ROAS, and cost per acquisition, your CPA. So what your return on ad spend is basically what it says. Is self-explanatory. It's the amount that you get back from the amount of ad spend that you put behind whatever creatives that you're running. So this is your gross sales. So let's say you run some ads, you spend $1,000 or £1,000, and at the end of a period, the end of a month, you got back $3,000 in revenue. That return is a 300% return, and that would be called your ROAS, return on investment. Now, your CPA, on the other hand, is cost per acquisition, which is how much does it cost you to bring in a new customer, right? So this is a little tricky because you can see a metric which is, there's a similar metric which is your cost per purchase, but a cost per purchase and your cost per acquisition is two different metrics, because your cost per purchase could be the cost to get even a returning customer back to your store. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting somebody completely new that hasn't been to your store before. So that's why it's cost per acquisition, or cost per new customer, or your CAC, customer acquisition cost, right? So let's dive into it. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So how both of these metrics are used. For me, what I would say is that with your ROAS, when you're focusing on your return on ad spend, to me, you're looking at things within a shorter period. It's like from month to month, opposed to understanding how this return on ad spend is going to affect your results in the future, or what does that mean for the future of your business. It's I don't want to say short-sighted, because it's not, because like you still need to understand what's happening in the now, but it doesn't tell you more than what's happening in the now. On the other hand, when you look at your cost per acquisition, the amount of new customers that are coming in, what that does, not only does it tell you how much these customers cost, but it also tells you how many came in based on the amount that you spent. So let's say you spent $1,000 a pounds and it costs you $100 to acquire a customer. That means you brought in 10 new customers. Now, to make more sense of this metric, you need to understand what your lifetime value is as well too, because what it's going to allow you to do is forecast into the future as well. So what you're doing basically is saying, well, I brought in 10 new customers, and based on the lifetime value of my customers within my store, let's say that's £1,000, then these 10 customers over a certain period of time, whether it be 12 months or it be 5 years, the value of them is going to be £10,000 or $10,000, because chances are they're going to grow in maturity to the value of 1,000, and I've acquired 10 of these. So that means that I know that I should receive 10,000 in revenue over a certain period of time. Now, this is provided that your retention strategy, whatever marketing you're doing on the back end, nothing changes, you remain effective, and these customers come back and buy. And they should, because In order for you to get your lifetime value, you need a lot of data. It's a huge data set that you're going to use. And the more data that you use, the more accurate it becomes, because there's a lot more variables in place. It's not like you're using, let's say, 5 customers, or you're using 500 customers. You can possibly be using maybe 8,000 customers, maybe 15, maybe 100,000 customers, you know? So that validates the information even more. So between these two metrics, I lean towards the CPA more, again, because there's just more information that you can get from it. And when it comes to the predictability of your cash flow, not only is your CPA giving you an idea of what's happening now by the amount of customers that you're bringing in, but it also gives you insight into the future. So especially now with all the changes that have taken place on Facebook and these other platforms, like, you can get overwhelmed looking at your return on ad spend, especially if you're just looking within the dashboard of any of these advertising networks, because they miss so much now when they don't show you the purchases from many Apple devices. So for example, within your dashboard on Facebook, you could be seeing a return on ad spend of 1 or 100%, which means it's 1 for 1. You spent 10,000, you made 10,000, but that's not necessarily true, because there's a lot of revenue that's missing, that's not calculated because of the changes on the iOS 15, right? To overcome this, you should be definitely using independent attribution software, something like Triple Whale. We use Phosphor. There's also Ecom Track. There is Wicked Reports and quite a few, but you want to use them so you get as much data as possible, and you also want to use one that gives you your cost per acquisition. Phosphor, like I said, we use Phosphor, and Phosphor also gives us our cost per acquisition, so we always have an idea of where that is and what's leading to it growing or reducing, because ultimately you want to bring in as much customers as possible to increase your forecast of revenue that's going to be coming in within whatever time span, whether it's 12 months, 3 years, or 5 years. So how do you get to your CPA? How do you figure out what your KPI and a CPA should be? So the first thing you'll have to do is figure out your lifetime value. Now, ideally, I would prefer that I can show this to you visually so that it's easier to understand. So the first thing you have to do is figure out what your lifetime value is. So let's go through that quickly, because this isn't a video about your lifetime value, but you still need to understand it. So to get your lifetime value, what you need to do is look at the amount of orders that came into your store within a given period of time. So let's say 12 months, keep it simple. And then you want to look at the amount of customers that made those total orders. You want to divide total amount of orders by total customers, and that will give you a figure. So let's say that figure is 3. So you know that over 12 months, your customers made 3 orders. You're going to take those 3 orders and you're going to times it by your AOV. So it's the amount of orders times your AOV is going to give you your lifetime value. You take your lifetime value, let's say that's $100 or £100, and a benchmark for your CPA is usually between 25% to 30% of your lifetime value. So if your lifetime value is $100 or £100, that means you want to keep your CPA between 25 to 33 pounds. And obviously, the lower that it is, the better it is for you. The faster you can scale, the more money you can make, the quicker you can grow your business and retire. Who knows, whatever it is that you want to do. You know, that's why I use the CPA versus the return on ad spend, because with the CPA, it gives you more insight than your return on ad spend. And your return on ad spend as well too has a lot to do with what your AOV is. So your return on ad spend won't always be a good metric to use, because if you have a low AOV, let's say your AOV is 50, you never see a great return on ad spend, and you'll be thinking, oh, my efforts are going in vain. If you have a higher lifetime value, when you look at how much it costs you to acquire the customer, you know that you're going to make this money back on the back end. You know, and that's how it is. Most businesses make their money on the back end. So if you're only looking within a short time frame, or you're only looking at your return on ad spend, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because that is not a true representation of how your brand will grow with these customers, because there's still more revenue that's going to be generated from the retention strategy. And hopefully you have a retention strategy in place. That simply means reaching out to them after the initial purchase and nurturing them, taking care of them, good customer service, great product, selling to them again, and those types of activities, which is usually done through email or text message. So there you go, guys. I hope that you found this video valuable, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.